Welcome back to Magic Hour Podcast, everyone. I'm your host, Taylor Page.
And I'm Claire. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone.
I'm so excited to get into this conversation with Kat Pierce. She is somebody I've followed on Instagram for a long time, and I'm obsessed with her tarot cards. But before we get into this episode, I want to tell a really funny, synchronistic, beautiful story about something that I call witch life. So, witch life is kind of an inside joke that I have with my husband, but it is also a very real thing. And witch life is basically when you're in your power and love and service and like living a high vibe life to the best of your ability. And it just feels like things kind of are like protecting you or fall into place. Or like I remember when I was in Glastonbury, England with Ari and we were on our honeymoon, we didn't realize that there weren't just like Ubers there. Like I know that it's a kind of small town, but small towns usually still have something, but it was the countryside. There wasn't very much. I guess I just didn't realize how small it was. And I remember Ari and I waited until the morning of our flight and we called the local cab company. And I had like four huge suitcases with me because I had been traveling for 6 weeks. I had three big suitcases and Ari had one big one. So we had four suitcases. And the guy was like, "Oh, man, you're calling." Okay, I'm not going to try a British accent. He was like, "You're calling me 2 hours before your flight." He's like, "I'm the only cab with a van in this whole town that could drive you. And I was supposed to have another person today and they canceled 5 minutes before you called me. So I could take you right now." And I was like, oh my gosh, if that's not a perfect example of witch life, I don't know what is, because we just got so freaking lucky. And it really feels like these forces are looking out for me and for anybody on this witchy path. So I had such a cool moment of witch life the other day. So there's a podcast interview coming out that I've been prepping for, and that this guest has been like a hero of mine for so long. And of course, you just want everything to go well. So her team reached out and was like, she needs to reschedule for Friday. We were supposed to be Monday at 11. And I was like, okay, that's fine. Cool. Just don't cancel on me. And so then Monday at 11 rolls out, and there is my whole neighborhood's power went out. And there was just like a full spectrum internet power outage in my area from exactly the time that I would have been recording with her. And then also, my first angel reading of the day was at 2 p.m. And that's exactly the time that the power came back. So I was like, that is such a witch life thing. And I was so excited. And I just love this idea of witch life.
I love that story so much. And it's a good example, too, of like sometimes a setback it happens for the right reason. It's like she needed to rearrange, which I'm sure maybe when you first heard it was kind of like, bummer, frustrating, or like, dang, I was ready for this and excited. Not the thing you wanted to happen, but it ended up being so perfectly helpful in the face of what happened. It's like, you know, looking to those setbacks sometimes and realizing like maybe they're exactly what we need for things to fall into place perfectly.
Absolutely. And I think I encourage you guys to think about your own witch life moments of where things just worked out in a crazy synchronistic way that you couldn't have planned. And I really like to think of that as like our angels and guides protecting us. And my cute little nickname for it is witch life.
Yes, I know. I'm trying to think of an example of mine. I guess maybe just moving in with my roommate, Mandy, who does the music on Magic Hour. And, we were both coming out of relationships, which I don't think either of us wanted to end, or I didn't want mine to end. And then there were all these people that I was maybe going to move in with that didn't work out, and it kind of fell through. And it just did seem so timed perfectly. Even the fact that I got the job at the restaurant where she was working at, it all just felt like it was really divinely led and orchestrated, and such a gift just kind of fell into my lap.
I know. That's totally witch life. And it makes it even more powerful that you and Mandy are both witches.
And I didn't even know I was a witch at the time. It was really Mandy and you and one of our other friends that really pulled me into the coven. And then I was like, sure, I guess.
Yes, we woke up the witch that was always there.
That's right.
I love that. Well, I'm super excited to get into our interview with Kat today. It was full of just so much goodness. She's so kind. Like just connecting with her, she is such a sweet, down to earth, beautiful person inside and out. So I'm really excited to share this conversation today. Kat Pierce is a singer songwriter, visual artist, tarot deck creator, and founder of the beauty brand Omen. Best known as half of the band The Pierces, Kat has toured internationally, released critically acclaimed albums, and built a devoted online following of over 170,000 on Instagram. Through her art, writing, tarot, decks, and social media, she inspires women to embrace creativity, self worth, and beauty at every age. Welcome, welcome, Kat. Kat, welcome to Magic Hour. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yes. So we always start with asking our guests, what is your big three, your sun, moon, and rising?
Well, it's very easy to remember because it's all the same thing. I'm a triple Virgo.
No way.
Yes.
Wow, I'm so fascinated by triple anything because, it's like you're a new moon baby, which means that you came here as a soul to plant new seeds and intentions within the archetype that you come into. So, organization, service, health, routine, like all of those things. That's just so fascinating to me. We've only had a select few triple anything on the pod so far.
Yeah, I'm a triple Virgo, but I met a Vedic astrologer and sometimes that shifts your sign and he did my chart and he's like, "Oh no, you're a triple Leo." So I feel like I'm split. Like if I had grown up knowing I was a triple or thinking I was a triple Leo, I feel like I'd be a totally different person. Because Leos have such permission to like be big and bold. I wonder if like if I had believed that since I was young, if I would have like not had the stage fright that I had, or I wonder if it would have changed who I was.
I believe that our angels and guides in the universe get us the message no matter what system we work through. There's like validity and magic, and the message will always find us that needs to. And so clearly, the Virgo, like cultural astrology background that you were born into, had medicine for you. And, then the Leo message found you, and maybe you were ready to hear it.
That's what my friend said. She was like, "Well, why don't you start living like a triple Leo now?" And I was like, "Great idea."
It's funny, I would not have guessed triple Virgo for you, but I do have to say, Virgo as an earth sign is like a creator and you craft so many things. And Virgos have a real eye for detail and design. Like my graphic designer is a Virgo. So I feel like Virgo is kind of slept on in creative spaces, but are in a lot of creative spaces. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, and I don't have the typical Virgo, like super organized and clean. I'm kind of moving into that or growing into that as I get older, but I used to be a total disaster. So it didn't make sense. I was like, maybe I'm so Virgo that I un-Virgoed myself.
Do you know your Venus sign? I'm so curious.
My Venus is in Leo, and my husband, he's a Leo, and his Venus is in Virgo. So our Venuses are opposite of our sun sign, which is
You
interesting.
guys both have Sun Venus conjunctions, which is so beautiful. I love that. I was going to say, I saw Leo in you. When I was guessing, I was like, I feel like some either Libra, Gemini, or Leo was what I was guessing. So
You guessed right. What's your sign? What are
I'm a
you?
Scorpio.
A Scorpio. Ooh, I love evolved Scorpios. I feel like are so incredible. Like Scorpios have like the cliches that like they can be snappy and angry and too upfront or whatever, but evolved Scorpios are incredible.
The Scorpio Virgo connection is real.
Oh, I like that.
Yes. Okay. So the second question that I like to ask is, how does your intuition speak to you?
Um, you know, my intuition got really clouded in a lot of kind of dark relationships. And so the past decade has been me reconnecting with my internal compass. I just did a little piece on Instagram about this, about how fear and intuition can be confusing because if you get a very strong hit of fear, you're like, is this my intuition telling me I shouldn't get on this plane or do this event or whatever? And
I read somewhere that fear screams, shouts, and intuition whispers. So that's been a huge guide for me too. Like, does this feel like it's coming from a calm, centered place? Or does this feel like it's coming from a frantic, out of control place? So reconnecting with that, like knowing that my higher self is calm, my higher self has a handle on things, and listening to that voice instead of listening to the panic.
Yes, I love that. I like to say, like, fear has this connotation of what if, whereas intuition is like solution oriented, practical. When an intuitive hit comes in, it's never going to induce fear.
Yeah, right? Okay. I like that. That's good.
So you were saying that you feel like you disconnected from your intuition in romantic relationships, which is really interesting too, because you have so much mutable energy being a triple Virgo. So who you surround yourself with and the containers that you're in the spaces is extra important. And so I'm wondering, like, and I want to get into your story in a moment, like a little deeper, but just what was that pathway of slowly learning to trust your intuition again after a time that you felt disconnected from it?
I think when I came out of my marriage, my first marriage, it was like I was just turning 40 and it was a real reset for me. And it was a massive wake up call because I had been doing a lot of inner work for the decade before that. I think even the failed marriage was part of the work, but I kind of came out of it recognizing that I had been going into relationships to fix and to rescue and to be the mother rather than to connect on a real level. So that could have been my Virgo side of me wanting to to fix. So I was choosing these men that had beautiful sides to them and beautiful aspects but were really not suitable partners. But there was a part of me that was like, oh, if I love them enough, or if if we just do enough therapy, or if we do enough whatever, we can overcome this. So I wasn't looking at it as a balanced partnership. So when I came out of that, I realized how much I had lost of myself working on these men. Like I wasn't really looking at myself, and a lot of them were quite controlling and difficult, and so I there were times where I sacrificed parts of myself in order to keep the peace. So when I came out of that and was single for a while, I started to reconnect with, like, what do I love? What do I like to wear? What do I like to eat? Like I just realized how much I'd compromised myself for my partner, and I had made the relationship or the partner the most important thing. So I took some time to really dive in. I did a lot of therapy, a lot of plant medicine work, a lot of just reconnecting with who I am. And that is your intuition, like finding like that little kernel inside of you, that source, before you put on all the masks and the layers and the people pleasing and the fears and everything. So just kind of stripping a lot of that away for that year and rediscovering who I was really transformative.
That's so powerful. And we can't know our angels if we don't know ourselves because they are a vibration of us at our highest, most authentic expression. So I love that just devotional work that you did to self love and reconnecting with your heart. I think that's so powerful. And I think sometimes when people think about their intuitive reclamation, they think of it like on a yoga mat or on a meditation cushion, but just authentically promising to love yourself deeper is like one of the most spiritual pacts we can make.
Absolutely. I mean, the first part of the reclamation was me spinning out and like going on a bunch of dates. I like drank a little too much, just like the breakdown was actually part of the coming back to myself as well. So, like finding yourself can look like a lot of different things, and it's not always, like you said, on the yoga mat, or even it's not always loving yourself. Sometimes it's finding out what you don't love and what does not work for you.
Yes, that's such a good point. Sometimes the path to authenticity is figuring out who we're not.
Absolutely.
So I do want to get into your story a little bit more because I really love so much of what you talk about on Instagram about how you were divorced at 39, you were afraid that like it wouldn't be in the cards for you to have a family and motherhood, and I know so many people in this community are in their late 30s, early 40s feeling a similar way, and I'm just wondering if you can tell your story and the message that you want people to hear in that.
Yeah, I was in my early 30s when I met my ex-husband, and there were a lot of red flags in the relationship that I totally ignored because I was in the societal time frame to find the one. So I had just come out of a terrible relationship, and, my ex had a lot of wonderful qualities that I was looking for, but I ignored some real issues that we had between us, that just inherent issues that, were not something that I was looking for in a long-term relationship. But I thought, we can fix this. We can make it work. And once I got to a certain point, once you invest a certain amount of time, you think, well, I'm older now and I can't get back into the dating pool now, 34, 36, 37. You think it's too late. I'm just going to make this work. And I never wanted to get a divorce. I never thought I would do that. My parents are still together. I watched my parents go through hard times, and they made it through, and they're great now. So that was the model that I had. And I was like, oh, you just stick and you work with it. But like the difference was my parents had children and it was a different time. And so I didn't have those things binding me to him, but I would have stuck forever. He recognized that it wasn't the right match, and that I wasn't happy and he wasn't happy. He came to me and he was like, "You're not happy." And I was like, "Yes, I am. What do you mean?" I was like, sobbing. I was in total denial, and we had been trying to get pregnant. I was 39 years old. So him saying that to me was, you are not going to have a family. You may not find another man, all of those ideas that we have about turning 40, all those fears rose up within me. And I just was clinging to staying together. But pretty soon after that, I saw that he was right. And I felt, once I was released from that relationship, I saw how unhappy I had been and how I had been hiding away in my house. Like, our music career had kind of slowed down. Me and my sister were in a band together, and I didn't know the path forward. So I was like, oh, the path forward is to have a baby and be in this marriage. And I didn't realize that I wasn't happy. So after he left, I could kind of see it was like a veil was lifted. And I was like, oh, I was not seen in that relationship. I wasn't blooming in that relationship. I have all these talents and gifts, and I was putting them all on the back burner, just trying to keep this relationship going. So I recognized that I did want a family and I did want a partner, but I also had to kind of come to terms with the idea that I might not be able to have a family. So there was a little bit of that, a little bit of like, hey, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to date like it's my job, and I'm going to try to find that partner and try to start that family, but also coming to terms with, it's okay if I don't. And I can still have a beautiful life, and I have nieces and nephews, and I have friends with kids, and I can create a family in a different way, or I could have a baby on my own. Like, there were all these options that I was kind of filtering through. So I started dating like it was my job. I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of heartache. Then I kind of hit a point where my sisters and my friends were like, maybe you should take a little break from dating. Like, give this a rest and just focus on yourself. And I took a very brief sabbatical of like a day. And then I was like, I need to close out all the apps. And as I was swiping for the like final time, because it becomes addictive, like I opened it up and I was like, I'll just do one more little look. I saw this man that really struck me, and he wasn't my normal type, but there was something about him that really interested me. And I just decided to message him, and it was really early in the morning. He responded to the text immediately. We had great banter. We decided to meet up, and we really clicked. Like, it felt different. He was saying things that, men that I had dated before wouldn't say. Like, he was like, oh yeah, I want to have a family, and I'm looking for my wife. And I was just kind of confused by that, because I thought that was something that you had to kind of trick a man into recognizing, if that tells you anything about the type of men that I was dating. And that's when I realized, like, you kind of have to, if you're not finding what you want in a partner, you might need to shift your type. Like, you might be attracted to these men for reasons that aren't. I was just saying to my friend, like, people think it's love at first sight when they see a person and it triggers them in that big way, but it can actually be the exact opposite. It can be someone triggering your unmet needs. So it's not love at first sight. It's like literally unlove at first sight. It's like, oh, that's the person that's not going to give me what I need. That's the person that's triggering a memory of something that I didn't get from my parents. So I'm going to go try to get it from that person who's probably not going to give it to me, which is so interesting because so many of us do that. We feel that big feeling of like, oh my God, I'm madly in love with this person, but really it's just a little bit of madness and not love. So I didn't feel that swept away feeling with my now husband, but I felt like this new availability that actually terrified me because I wasn't used to someone being so present and open. And I found myself kind of shifting into the opposite role of like, he's available. Well, now I'm not sure. And now I'm scared, which was really interesting. And it took us a while to get into a groove where I could accept the availability that he was offering. And it didn't show up as obvious fear. It showed up as, I'm not sure if this is right. He's too young. His voice is too loud, like silly little thing, just any way to avoid the intimacy that he was providing. So I really had to do a lot of work within the relationship to get to a place where I could truly connect. And that was kind of a shock to me because I thought that I was always the one that was there ready for intimacy and that I was just choosing men that weren't, that were afraid of intimacy. But really, if you're choosing men that are afraid of intimacy, you are also afraid of intimacy. Because if you really wanted to connect, you would choose a man that was available.
Yes. Oh, that's such a powerful story with so many points. And I want to hit on so many of them. Dating outside of type is so real. And it probably goes into that theory of like the unhealed part of ourself that feels that unlove that you described and like getting a need met by somebody versus actual availability, attraction in a more heart-led way. Almost kind of reminds me of the distinction between fear versus intuition that we were talking about in the beginning. It's like fear and that unlove take us out of the present moment, and it's all about what we think is going to happen next or what happened in the past. Whereas that regulated intuition, deeper connection, deeper potential for growth is present. It's like together here and now in a grounded nervous system regulated way. So I think that there's also an interesting parallel between that earlier theme. But yeah, the dating outside of type is so real because like my entire life I only dated actors, like actor after actor after actor. And my husband is literally an accountant and he couldn't be more different than every ex I have, but like it just clicked and it worked and it's just so true. And I think challenging our ego stories of like who we tell ourselves as our type is so important because we're automatically like limiting our options and our scope by so much when we keep dating the same person over and over that clearly isn't working.
Yeah, I dated actors, musicians, and they were all this like broken boy, handsome archetype. I mean, my husband's gorgeous. I'm not saying like I went that far to type, but he was like a different energy. He was kind of more all American. He's an athlete. Like it was just something that I thought, well, we wouldn't share interests, because I'm a musician and an artist. And so I thought like I need to be with a musician or an artist. But it's actually better because like he respects me in a way that's different because it's different for him. Like it's unusual for him. And I respect his mind. The way his mind works is so different than mine. And like his athleticism and his like dedication to being healthy and to life was so different than anything that I'd ever experienced. But it's like this nice juxtaposition and we like really fill in the blanks for each other in a really incredible way.
I love that. I really feel the same way with my husband. Like we could not be more opposite, but our each other's weaknesses are the other one's strengths and it just really works.
That's great.
So, I wanted to talk to you about how when you were with your ex-husband, you felt like your music career was kind of dwindling, you were feeling disconnected from your creative processes, and I see this a lot in the art world, especially, but anybody whose like business is tied to themselves sort of as like the product, whether you're like an actor or an artist or a singer or whatever it is, I find that, there's such an energetic tie between career and love life. And that when our cup is empty in love life and we're in these like toxic patterns of low self worth, our art suffers. And I feel like the universe kind of like pumps the brakes on our creative opportunities to like bring us back home to ourself in a lot of ways. Like it takes away that distraction. And so I'm just wondering if you could talk a little bit about that connection of like when you felt like your maybe creative spark was dimmed a little bit and how that connection has showed up for you.
I think for me, a lot of the times the relationship became the art project.
Yes.
Like literally, I would put my heart, soul, energy, everything into making that beautiful. And, you know, you should put a lot of heart, soul, and energy into your relationship, but it shouldn't drain everything else out of you. In the relationship that I'm in now, I feel so supported and full that my creativity has exploded. I've always been very creative, but there was a long period of time after like we quit touring with my band that I just felt like listless, and I don't even know how I spent my days. Like I spent like 5 years kind of just scrolling on my phone and just in a low level depression. And it was interesting because when I was supported by my music financially for a long time, and as that started to dwindle as well, my creative fire relit because I was like, okay, I'm not going to go get a 9 to 5 job. I wouldn't even know where to begin. I have to dig in and figure out what I can create, what energy I can put out into the world to get back that financial energy. And that was actually huge for me. And I think sometimes the universe puts you in positions of financial discomfort in order to light a fire in you as well. And I found that to be so true. Like, I feel like sometimes if I get a little complacent, like if money is flowing, I kind of get a little complacent about my creativities. I feel like the universe is like finding this balance with me. Like, how, what do we give her to keep her moving, to keep her sharing her gifts? And then, now let's give her a break. But yeah, my desires are getting bigger for like, we bought a house finally and, we're fixing it up. And so I feel that within all that, my creative flow is getting bigger too, to support all of those dreams and desires as well. So that's been pretty cool.
I love that. And I also really love that quote of the relationship was my art project. Like, period.
Yeah. A failed art project, but it was put a lot of love into it.
Yeah, exactly. Like your whole creative fire was like in that. So that just makes so much sense. And so I want to transition a little bit to your creative processes because I really see you as a creatrix. And I really love how you aren't limited by labels. It's like you do so many things. And I think that that's like the nature of creativity is not limitation and boundaries and like structure, but really flowing with what our heart asks for next. And then this like present moment co creation. And so for our listeners who aren't familiar with your work, you are a singer songwriter. By the way, I love the song You Belong to Me.
Oh, thank you.
I played that one on repeat. You have your tarot deck, which you illustrated as well. You have Omen Beauty, you make jewelry, you make content for people online, you're into fashion, like you do all of the things. And so I'm wondering like what's your relationship with the muse?
Ooh, I just wrote something about this today that's so interesting. Well, I feel like I was really lucky to grow up in a family where creativity was everything. My mom was an artist, my dad was a musician. We homeschooled and basically we did arts and crafts all day. Like, do not quiz me about history or math because we were a little lacking there, but like we read, we painted, we took ballet, we sang, like that was our curriculum. And so there was never a question of whether or not I always thought that was just like what everyone did. And I do believe that everyone is creative. They just maybe didn't have the environment to nurture that. And so my relationship with the muse is that it's something you call in, and it's also something that you embody. Like you can be the artist and the muse. And I think you sitting down every day to be the channel invites the muse in. I do something creative every single day, and it's not always a success, or it's not always, exactly what I wanted it to be. But the more you sit down and open yourself up to be the vessel and the channel, the more likely it is that she's going to come in. And I have never had, knock on wood, a creative block. Like there's days where it's not like my best thing or my favorite thing, but I never feel stuck. I never feel blocked. I always feel like that channel is open and available to me. So I think knowing that and believing that, a lot of people get this fear if they don't create the thing they wanted to create. And they're like, oh my God, I'm blocked. I'm blocked. I'm blocked. And when you say that, you are blocking yourself. You are disconnecting from the muse and the channel. But if you're like, no, I'm an open vessel, maybe this is my time to like go have some experiences, to just gather a little more information and a little more the pieces that you put together to make the art piece. You just have to go collect that. And that's creative too. Like go for a walk and notice flowers, take pictures of flowers in the sunset. Like that can all be stuff that's just nurturing the thing that you're actually moving towards, like the big project. But it's all like life is a little art project. Every day you're adding tools to your kit. One day you're going to sit down and it's going to be time for the big project. But just never say you're blocked. Just say, oh, it's not time to put together the creation. It's time to just gather tools.
Yes, that's so powerful. And I think like our nature inherently is creative. And that's why so many people are feeling so disconnected and struggling with mental health and anxiety and depression, because we're in this time period that's all about consuming, consuming, consuming. And now AI is like spitting out things that we're consuming. It's like we're so disconnected from our true nature. And I think your parents did you such a service of never disconnecting you from that, because a lot of people's background is like they come in inherently excited to create and they're told be realistic, get a real job, you have to survive. And then that's the quote unquote block in earlier adulthood, is their parents' inner voice blocking their inner child's voice. And so I like your suggestion of like, it doesn't have to be creative for a professional output or to even do your best work. But even just if that was your experience where you were not encouraged in your creative processes, like letting your inner child play and reconnect with what excites them. And then slowly and surely you'll get better. But like sometimes we have to be okay being on our little baby fawn legs in the creative spaces if we weren't nurtured to do that.
For sure. And that's what I tell people, that you don't only have to be like a child and play, you also have to be the kind parent. So when you play and you make the little creative thing, don't judge it like the parent that may have judged you in the past. You have to look at it and be like, oh my gosh, look what I made. That was beautiful. Good job. Even just like my daughter, she's just learning how to draw and paint, and she holds it up so proud. And I'm like, wow, we put it on the fridge. Like treat yourself like that.
I love that. And it's so interesting because something that just popped into my head is like, I think there's these subconscious societal programs that tied to fertility, like, oh, after a certain age, we can't have family anymore. I feel like there's a subconscious association with like, after a certain age, I can't create things anymore. I can't, create a business, create a passion project, create a new version of self. It's like there's a lot of like womb sacral chakra myths that make us feel like after 45, everything's done for. And I really appreciate your voice in this space being like, actually, like we can be creatrixes until the day that we die.
Yes. And also, I think a lot of the reason that people get stuck creatively is because they are trying to create from the mind of a 25-year-old. So they're thinking, because the world tells us like we want songs written by 25-year-olds, or we want like a new hot young artist who's going to do that. We try to create from that space. But what I've been doing is like I've been creating art from a middle-aged space. And what do I have to share with women in my age group? And they'll be excited about this. I'm not marketing my stuff to 25-year-olds, even though some of them like it. Take the wisdom and the experience you have now and put that into your craft. Like, you know how a lot of your favorite musicians, their music starts to like not sound as good in their 40s? It's because they're trying to copy the experience and the feeling that they had when they were young. The people that truly, like the greats that keep going, like Joni Mitchell was serving music from every phase of her life. She wasn't trying to be like the young hippie girl. She was singing about being wise and having aged and having all this experience and heartache, and her art continues to be beautiful because of that.
Yeah. And I think that it's a service to women everywhere to have examples of middle age and older age art. How does that program us subconsciously if every single musician that's a woman is like in underwear for some reason? Like always. It's the weirdest thing. I do not understand. I'm like, not her in underwear too. And it's like not even for a good reason. It's not even like part of the message or the song or the show. It's just like a prerequisite to be a pop star. It's so weird.
Totally. I was actually so bummed about Madonna because she went through this phase when she was 40 where she did Ray of Light, and she was like coming out as like a goddess witch queen. And I was like, this is so cool. Like, thank you, Madonna. And then she like veered back into like underwear and gold teeth and trying to go with the trends of youth. And I was like, you have so much experience and so much to say. I would love to hear that instead of you trying to copy your younger self. I mean, sorry if Madonna's listening.
Madonna does listen to this
I
podcast.
thought she might. This is her favorite podcast. I thought she might be listening. Madonna, go back to Ray of Light era, please.
She will hear that. That's so funny. No, it's so true. And I think that it's so inspiring to see authentic art. And I think that those sort of pressures to be younger and create things to be younger and the external signs of that are indications of deeper internal wounding and scarcity consciousness and fear. So it's almost like a revolutionary act to be like, I'm going to create art about this experience that is shushed and pushed down with all this patriarchal PR.
Yeah, yeah, like, I wanna even, like, reclaim the words that we don't like middle-aged. Like, people are like, "Oh god, middle-aged woman," like, that sounds so sad, and I'm like, I'm middle-aged. I'm right in the middle. It's cool." Or, like, over the hill, like, climbing the hill sucked. Over the hill, woo, it's a breeze. Like, if we can reclaim those words and those ideas, matriarchy, matronly, like even entering the crone era, like give it like some pizzazz instead of fearing it and making it sound like something that, you want to run away from, like make it cool. I think we can do that.
Yes, we're shifting our value away from just being baby factories that ends at a certain age and into the wise ones. And the more examples that we have of that from other people, it makes it even more powerful. And it's kind of like when you leave an abusive relationship, you're like, oh, how was I in that for so long? Like, I hope that that's what's happening to the psyche and collective consciousness of women.
Think so. I'm seeing like a real shift, and like I get messages every day from women being like, "Oh my gosh, now I'm excited to age." Like, thank you. Like it's just like someone needed to give them permission. And I know I'm not the only one saying it, but it did feel like the onslaught of messages I got from women. I was like, "Wow, not enough people are saying this. Not enough people are claiming this phase of life as something to be excited about and something to be proud of."
Absolutely. And so, for our listeners, like, what has been your favorite part of being middle aged?
My favorite part of being middle-aged, just the experience and just being able to share experience and wisdom has been so gratifying for me. Like, that's why we go through all the shit, so we can learn and then we can teach. And that is so rewarding. So being in the Middle Ages, as I call it, is wonderful because you have the right to kind of claim these ideas because you've been there, you've done that, you know. So it's like you have a little bit of power. You can have a little bit of queen energy. And it's also just it's such an unapologetic phase. Like you can dress the way you want. You don't have to worry about trends. Like I don't know what the kids are wearing. Some of it does not make sense to me at all. And I'm like, that's great. They can do that. And I'm going to do what I like. And you have this permission to just be more yourself, I feel.
Yes, I love that. I love that so much. And I was very lucky to be raised with a mom that really celebrated aging. And she told me each decade gets better than the one before. So I feel very lucky to have that in my consciousness. And aging is such a privilege, too. Like we forget that sometimes. I want to switch into and ask you, what is your relationship to the word witch? Do you identify as a witch?
It's funny because a lot of people call me a witch. I don't call myself a witch necessarily because I kind of feel like I have an interesting relationship with witch. Like I kind of claim it and don't claim it because I feel like all women have that. And there are such negative connotations to it too. And I grew up in the Christian church, which I moved out of, and I just moved into like spirituality, connecting with God, the universe. But I was raised thinking like witchcraft is bad. And I know a lot of people still have that idea. So I don't want to like throw it out there and be like, I'm a witch. And that turn people away from the message I might have. So I feel like everyone has a little bit, all women especially have just, a little bit of that inner witch. And so I think that we have to kind of reframe that word as well, but it's not something that I want to claim as like my title. I think it's something that's within me, but it's not my main title, if that makes sense.
Sure. It's not my main title either, but I do identify as a witch, but it's so true. It's a very loaded word and everybody has a different definition for what they're talking about when they say it. Like when I'm talking about witch, I'm talking about someone in their full power, mind, body, soul, working with all the elements, being a healer, a steward of the earth, connected to the divine. Other people, you say witch, and they think of someone doing demonic acts that are trying to hurt people. I understand that without the proper background and education around the word witch, that it could turn people off from important messages 100%.
Yeah, I kind of prefer the word wizard.
I love that. Amazing. So, with that kind of Christian church background, what was your process to designing your tarot deck and reclaiming your spirituality? And does your family, how do they feel about the tarot deck that you created? How is that for you?
They love it. They've all kind of moved out of the, fundamental traditional Christian ideals that we grew up with. And that happened, I started traveling when I was 14, going to ballet camps. And that really, I grew up in Birmingham, Alabama, the Bible Belt. So I was just steeped in those ideas and knew nothing else. And so when I started to travel and grow, I was like, wait, I don't think everyone's going to hell if they don't have the same beliefs as me. That doesn't make sense to me. Like my biggest belief and the thing that I hold on to is that God is love. And I like to reverse it even. Love is God. Like love is the thing that can really shift things. It's what we are here for. It's what we want. It's what we're made of. And to me, that is my spirituality. I almost said that is my religion, but I don't like the word religion. That is my only true belief, really. Like everything else, I'm so interested in all types of spirituality, woo woo, anything kooky. Like I want to know it all, but I take it all with a grain of salt. But that's kind of the one thing that I'm like, that's the only fact I've got.
That's the only fact you need. That's like so important. And it just, everything stems from that. I couldn't agree with that more. And I think it kind of also, because I consider myself agnostic too. I'm like a very love based witch that is agnostic. And I'm very wary of people who claim to know everything about the universe because I don't think that we have the capacity to fully understand from this human perspective. And I don't think we're meant to. So I completely relate to that. So talk to me about like how did this idea for the Wandering Star Tarot come to you? Which cards did you start like feeling pulled to the most? I wonder what your favorite card is. Like talk to me a little bit about your tarot deck cuz it's my absolute favorite one.
Oh, thank you so much. I started by just I was on the road and I had some markers or pens and I just doodled. I was into tarot at the time, but I was like, I'm going to draw a tarot card. And so I drew the star card. For some reason, that was the first one that I wanted to draw.
That's my favorite card.
That's one of my favorites too. I drew that one, and as I was drawing it, the song Wandering Star, Portishead, came on the playlist. And I was like, oh, that would be a good name for a tarot deck if I ever finish this, but I will not finish this because I don't finish anything. And so, like, I slowly, kind of was like, maybe I'll draw another tarot card, another one. But I was like, there's 78 cards. There's no way I'm ever going to finish this. I don't finish projects. That's what I thought about myself at the time. And it sat around for a few years and I would here and there draw one. And then during the pandemic, I got really serious about finishing it. I had all this free space and time. So I focused and I finished it. And I was really learning about tarot as I created it because I played with tarot decks, but I didn't know the tarot deck. So I learned about it as I created. So I would decide to make a card and then I would kind of reference classic decks and then look at new decks and kind of what is my expression going to be from this card? What do I want to say with this card? And I knew that I wanted it to be really positive. Like some tarot decks have like some dark cards that feel scary. And I was like, none of these cards and none of life's lessons should be that scary. They should all be welcomed in with the idea that they are there for our growth. So that was a really important message that I wanted to instill in the deck that like, okay, you got the Tower card. Your whole life's about to burn down. But that means a new life is on the other side for you. That was really important for me to let people know that life's hard lessons are not just meant for you to suffer. They're for your growth and for your expansion.
Yeah, yeah, and I think even one of your keywords on the tarot, I think, is rebirth. So I really like that emphasis on it's not all just about this, it's the bigger picture. And so I'm curious if you use your divination practice or your spiritual practice, like how you blend that with your creative practices and what inspires you.
Something very strange happened. After I created my deck, I used to use tarot like almost daily. And after I created my deck, I quit using tarot. It was almost like I created the cards and they were kind of in me to call upon. And I quit using them to play with so much. I've just kind of started back using them again recently because there's been some big life shifts and been some upsets and exciting stuff, but I'm kind of like, okay, I want to sit down with this and receive more guidance. But yeah, I'm creating an oracle deck currently, so that's been a whole new expansion because tarot has like these guidelines, like this card means this card means this. But oracle is just like whatever I want it to mean. So that's been a whole new exploration of like, what do I want to put out into the world and what messages of love can I deliver with this image and with these words. That creating the deck has been part of my creative process lately, more so than using it.
I love that. And the cards and the divining tools, just because something resonates with us in one chapter doesn't mean we have to use it for the rest of our spiritual life. It can go in and out. And I feel too like sometimes that's also an indication that we're working with different spirit guides because different tools start to resonate with us in different ways. And I love how, like, when you got everything you needed and put your loving tarot deck into the world, it's like, okay, now we're shifting your focus into what wants to come next. And even working with cards is more about ramping us up to higher intuitive information. It's like a bridge. So it's kind of like you didn't need that bridge in the same way after you created that deck.
Yeah. Or I think I started reading a lot more after that. I mean, I've always been really into reading, but the like books kind of became my guides for a while. And I did some pendulum work for a while, and honestly, I got to a point in my life where I was a lot happier. I feel like a lot of us reach out to tarot or these, modalities when we're searching or we're confused. And I feel like the past 10 years or so, I've been in a place of more peace and not needing to reach out to those divination tools as much. They're so amazing when you do need them, but I've been so lucky for the past 10 years to be in a better place. And so I've been kind of just going internally more so than using external things. But I still, like I said, I've been going through some, just like with my Instagram going viral and like these new opportunities coming, my nervous system has been a little bit like, whoa. So I've found myself kind of going back to these things that can kind of calm and center me and help kind of guide me towards the answers that I need.
Yeah. And self divination in times where we're like happy and things are good, it's so much easier to like get clear info. But when we're dysregulated, that's when these tools outside of ourselves are so extra helpful.
Well, they're so important. Like I always say, when you're going through a breakup or any kind of upset in life, like you need your full team. You need your psychics, your healers, your therapists, your tarot cards, your like full court press, get everybody on board. That's how I am, at least. Like I just, make sure all bases are covered. And then you can kind of get through those times and you can coast for a little bit.
Absolutely. And so before I ask you just a little more about the Oracle deck you're creating, I just want to ask you because you share so many gems of amazing wisdom on your Instagram. I love catching them. And I'm just wondering if there's been a message for these times that we're going through collectively that you just feel called to share or something that's just been on your heart that you want to use this time to say.
We are in such a crazy time in the world, and it can be completely overwhelming, especially with all of the information that we're bombarded with constantly. I know that I get to a place sometimes where there's so much coming in, fear and destruction, war, greed, that I get overwhelmed and I feel powerless. And so then I tend to like ignore it. I'm like, oh, well, then I can't look at the news and I can't look at my phone, and I'm just going to focus on my life and ignore it. And I think that's, putting your head in the sand a bit as well. So it's like you want to avoid being overcome by fear, but you also don't want to put your head in the sand. So I'm finding the balance is you do what you can. Like if something really hits your heart, then you can, donate to that cause. You can speak out about that cause, do what you can within your community for that. And then you do have to put it aside, regulate your nervous system, and try to, raise your children as best you can, show them happiness and joy and peace, gather together in community. My sister and I just started a singing circle where we just bring women together and we sit and we sing together, because there is so much shit going on in the world. Like we need to create beauty as well, to remember why this life is worth living and why we want to make this world a better place. If you just get caught in the swirl of everything is falling apart, then you do lose the beauty of life and there isn't the motivation to fight for anything. So I think there's finding the balance of just connecting with beauty, a beautiful life, still trying to have peace and happiness, and also doing everything you can to help with things that are on your heart that are terrible in this world right now. And there's a lot of those.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that answer so much because it's so easy to feel so powerless, like you were saying. And I don't believe our thoughts create our reality, but I believe our beliefs do. And so if we believe that we're like stuck and blocked and the world is horrible and we're alone and there's impending doom, I think there's a level of group manifestation with that. And like if we focus more on community, what is in our power, how we can stay regulated and actually get intuitive information by staying open and clear of how we can take our power back and be of service. Like if everybody really believes that we're powerless to what's happening right now, we will be. And if we outsource our intuition to AI and our community to social media, we'll be so disconnected and feeling so disconnected from like the essence of what it is to be human. And I think everything you're doing is this like yellow light beam of like what is needed to be remembered, which is like cultivating community, being creative, not always in this consumption loop, remembering that like life doesn't end in middle age. Like there's just so many important messages and examples. Like that's what I love is that you're leading by example. You're not preaching. And I think that's what a lot of people, I think that's why like it's no accident that your Instagram is going viral right now because I think it's the time that the world really needs your light the most.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's nice to hear.
And so will you tell us a little more about this oracle card deck that you're creating?
Yes. I'm creating an oracle deck now. It's called the Omen Oracle. And I wanted to do a follow-up to the Wandering Star, and I was just really excited to have no boundaries with the meanings of each card. But I actually found that to be, as soon as I started, I was like, I got a little bit of fear. I was like, wait, what do I say? How do people use these tools? And so I had to sit with it for a minute and kind of come to a place where I was like, okay, this is whatever you want it to be. What would you want in a deck? So I came up with 4 categories. One is called Visio Divina, and that's an ancient practice of staring into the eyes of artwork. Like if you see a being in a piece of art, you stare into their eyes and you let yourself be fully revealed because there's no judgment, because it's not coming from a place of human judgment. You just let yourself be seen and fully revealed, and almost like you're using the eyes in the artwork to channel the love of God. So I'm making 11 cards that are just faces, and you stare into their eyes and it gives you a word to sit with, like power, trust, vulnerability. And so you sit with that word and you see what comes up as you stare into the eyes of the being on the card.
Wow.
Yeah, so that'll be fun. And then I did 11 plant medicine cards where you can connect with the energy of the plant and what medicine they have to offer. And I suggest that you connect with it in your waking life, if your real life, if you can. Like if it's rose, you can have rose tea or wear rose oil and just really connect with the plant and their medicine. And then the third category is animal medicine. So it'll be an animal, and you get these little meditations to do where you embody the creature and you learn from them and the magic that they have to offer. And then the fourth category is the oracle offering. So it's just words of wisdom with beautiful visuals, more like a traditional tarot card, but without the confines of the tarot rules.
I love that. It's kind of, first of all, that first category, Visio Divina, is that right?
Yep.
I've never heard that before. And that's so interesting and cool. And I'm excited to test that out. I'm like, wow, I'm always excited for like expanded new perspectives of ways to tune in. And I think it's really cool too that you don't have a whole bunch of preconceived notions about oracle card decks. So you're like so in your unique vibration with what you want to create. And I think that that's really cool too. Like it's kind of rare, I feel, for like innovation in these spaces at times. So I'm excited to test that out. And that's really cool.
I hope you like it. It's coming out 2026.
Amazing. Do you know when in 2026?
I think August or September. I'm not sure what the release date was. Again, it got moved a couple of times, but I think fall of next year.
Amazing. Maybe we'll have you back on around that time.
Yeah, that would be great.
And so, where can our community find you? What's your Instagram? Anything else you want to share?
My Instagram is I am cat dog, which is a funny that's like my old nickname. And when I started my Instagram however many years ago, I didn't realize it was going to turn into what it is now. And I just haven't changed the name.
Love it.
Everyone assumes it's like because of the cartoon cat
Yeah.
dog, but it's actually my sisters calling me cat dog, like Snoop Dogg. They were like cat dog.
Oh, funny. I did think it was the cartoon.
Yeah, no. So it's I am cat dog. And then if you're interested in trying my beauty products, my website is omenbycatpierce.com. And I've got my beauty products, which I handcraft, and jewelry and tarot and some other little magical offerings if anybody wants to check those out.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been such a inspiring conversation.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, and I know that our community is going to love it so much. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great.
Welcome back to Sitting with Spirit, my loves, the part of the podcast where I sit with our angels, our guides, our loved ones in the spirit world, and give the messages for the collective. I also wanted to say this week that Sitting with Spirit is more messages to help connect individuals on their path. So I'm not necessarily commenting on collective energetic states, although individual experiences and collective experiences are intermingled and connected, of course. But I'm not using this time in Sitting with Spirit to tune into what's happening on a global scale or a political scale, although, of course, what's happening will affect our individual journey, like I said. But that's just not what I'm using these messages for. I'm using it for you to be able to self reflect and think about how this is affecting you on the personal day to day. And of course, there is always going to be some overlap. I record these really far in advance from when they come out. So sometimes if I feel like an important collective message needs to be shared or something like that, I will. So that being said, let's get into the messages this week. So, the first thing that I want to share is a message about working with our spirit guides. And I found this to be a really cool message when it came through. So, if you are a professional medium, which I know some of you listening probably are, then you would know that when you are making a link to somebody in the spirit world, and they are coming through and your sitter is saying yes to what you're saying. When the sitter says yes, it strengthens the link to the medium and the spirit person. You start to get more momentum. You start to get more confident. They start to blend more and more with your energy, and you start to just get on a roll with them. When the sitter's like, no, I'm not sure, it can make the medium get in their head a little bit or can disrupt the link or whatever, whatever. So that principle can also be applied to our relationship with our spirit guides. And the message that I got is that when our spirit guides, our angels, our ancestors, our guides, give us a little download, a nudge, a homework assignment, and we say yes to it, it strengthens our link and our relationship to that guide. And it helps us have more confidence. It helps build the flow and it helps deepen our relationship. And people often say, like, how can I meet my spirit guides? How can I get closer to my spirit guides? And listening to our spirit guides builds trust with our spirit guides, builds resonance with our spirit guides. And that's one of the most powerful ways to build the link with you and your team. So just saying yes, the act of saying yes. And as I said many times, my definition for intuition is the sum of all of the times we've trusted ourself, self with a capital S. And so this is a really beautiful way to trust ourselves, to trust our spirit guides, and to make the link even stronger. The second thing that I wanted to share is a message about training our nervous system to feel safe and ease. And I know that I've talked before about how important and what a game changer it is to feel safe in spaciousness, which is so important, but also feeling safe in ease. And the message that I got is that we have all been working and growing and healing and mastering our crafts in different areas. And it doesn't take the same amount of manpower and grueling effort and self doubt and back and forth and discourse in our brain as maybe it did for previous versions of self. And I got this message of just letting things be easy, trusting that this version of self that has done so much work and come so far doesn't need to work as hard as a previous version of self or in the same way as a previous version of self. And that is a yardstick reflection of how far we've come and how far we've grown and how much we've integrated. And similarly to the message around spaciousness, most of us, the life that we're calling in, our biggest dream for ourselves, includes a level of ease. And if we don't in our nervous system feel safe here and now to embody ease, it's not making it easy for us on a nervous system, shadow, deeply subconscious level to create a life of spaciousness and ease that we might be calling in when we don't feel safe and ease. So I think that wherever you can in low stake situations, practice letting it be safe to be easy, letting it be safe to not hold on to perfectionism and control, letting it be safe to trust the building blocks of everything you've put in. Like, I remember when before every single birth chart reading, I would be going back and forth. I think this was like around 2019 when I started doing birth chart readings professionally. I would be like, double checking everything and looking at their chart and spending hours analyzing everything. And now I can look at a chart and in like 20 to 30 minutes be like, perfect, I've got it. I know exactly what I need to talk about with this client. And I'm trusting that ease. But somewhere along the path, I had to let go of it. I was really in this moment like, is it safe to just do 20 to 30 minutes? Is it going to be good? And it always is, because it's not just 20 to 30 minutes. It's years of practicing this craft that are stored in my memory. And that's exactly the heart of what I'm saying now. And it might be a professional thing, it might be a personal thing, whatever it is, letting ourselves feel safe with ease as an emotion. And that feels very, very powerful. And I find that a lot of people, when they're in ease, notice that little voice that comes up that's like, when's the other shoe going to drop? Or this feels too easy to be worth it. And I think there's this core belief that's been passed down for a lot of us ancestrally of anything worthwhile takes hard work. And while I don't necessarily disagree with that inherently, the hard work, maybe we're past that chapter and now we can be in the ease of everything we've built and start to work on something else, et cetera, et cetera. So, I think labor is always involved in any form of mastery, but that doesn't mean it has to be hard. So, the first symbol that I saw from the angel messages this week were bells ringing. And I just got this sense of like an alarm bell, our guides getting our attention, like something about wake up calls or seeing things in new ways or expiration dates. Because I also saw this image of someone just dropping a bundle of what they were carrying. And so I feel like we're in a really important crossroads moment energetically. And whenever you're tuning in is when you're meant to hear this. And our guides are getting our attention. And I also just feel like it's time for a radically honest check in with ourselves. Like, where are we? What do we not want to carry anymore? What's getting our attention? Where are the alarm bells ringing? And then I saw this image of a pathway illuminated by golden light. And I got this feeling like this is our pathway, keep going. And then the pathway went for a long time with nothing on the path, nothing concrete on the path. And then I felt this sense of second guessing the path, feeling like an imposter, getting in our head, just this sense of not seeing clearly. And because of that emptiness, perceived emptiness on the path or the timing of the path, it just feels like that brought up some crown chakra blocks. And so then a little bit further down the path was this mountain that was so clear on like the way to climb and the next goal and what was coming up. But I almost got this sense of many of us navigating liminal space, in between space, space that makes us maybe question the entire path we're on. I just feel these big picture questions that's like, just take the whole picture and rip it up and throw it away. And the message that I got is that sometimes the time, the place, the path, all of that is by design. And if it was just constantly like next clear thing, we wouldn't get the lessons, the growth, and the opportunity for spiritual evolution through traversing the liminal in between unknown spaces that we really don't like as humans. And so I feel like we're really getting pushed to like trust our intuition, to just keep walking forward, to follow the nudges. And that's the feeling that I got of like just one foot in front of the other, keep walking forward with radical honesty, listening to your heart, trusting your intuition, and the next clear point on the path will reveal itself. And there's just a level of needing to trust that and not abandon the path and not let yourself spiral into questioning everything, but just one foot in front of the other. And the next goal or mountain or checkpoint on the path will reveal itself and give you more answers. Trust the liminal in between for now. And then with that, I saw swan as an animal guide. And swan is so tied to late bloomer energy, the best yet to come. Whenever I see swan, it's like transformation and trusting our intuition, becoming the most graceful, powerful version of self yet. And so if you feel like a late bloomer or you resonate with that, idea of like having a hard time trusting the path and not really knowing what comes next or feeling like nothing's really happening, there is this sense of just keep walking forward. And swan is there as an animal guide to really let you know that the best is still yet to come. So with that being said, the next thing that I saw was our angels placing a crown of diamonds and rose quartz on our head. It almost looked like Glinda the Good Witch's crown. And I just felt like it's this moment for us for self love, for kinder self talk, for remembering our power, for just standing in our queendom, our goddess energy, and our worthiness in a really deep level, even if we're navigating uncertainty or unknown. There's deeper. I thought that the diamonds and the rose quartz were such interesting combination because diamonds are sort of like fancy and beautiful and give me this royalty feeling, and rose quartz is all about self-love, deeper love, higher love. And I felt like the combination was really beautiful. So maybe that would be a good visual to meditate on this week if you have a meditation practice, meditating and picturing yourself in that beautiful crown of deeper self love, personal power, and also not allowing that negative self talk voice, not allowing ourselves to believe that voice because that voice is always going to exist. It's not that we can just get rid of it, but how much are we really believing it? So I wanted to actually pull a card from Kat's deck. So I have her tarot deck here, the Wandering Star Tarot, which is it's very beat up as you can see because I've taken it all over with me. And I ended up pulling the Knight of Wands for this sitting with spirit. And that's the card of flow, intuition, the fire element. I feel like that card really fits in really well with what I'm saying about just staying on the pathway. And I also feel like it ties in thematically with a lot of what came up in the conversation between Kat and I. So, this is the card of just continuing to flow with where the energy is taking you, of trusting your intuition, of maybe taking a risk or leaning into that fire element of bravery, strength, creativity, following our passion, and making sure that we're feeding our flame. The Knight of Wands is the messenger of the fire element. Where can we connect to our own fire, creativity, warmth, light, illumination, bravery, etc.? So I really loved that. I think we're in a powerful moment for growth, for trust, for being a light in the darkness, and moving forward with things that scare us a little, not being afraid to take a risk, not being afraid to get outside of a comfort zone. And as I say, self doubt is a good sign that we are breaking out of an uncomfortable comfort zone. So, going into the mediumship today, this was a really interesting connection. I heard the name Dave, so that could be the actual name Dave or a D name. And then I was seeing a military background, and I started to connect with this person in the spirit world. And I also felt a connection to California. And then as I started to connect a little bit deeper, I got this feeling of yes, this person was biologically male, but their soul was female. Or, It's like so hard because gender's such an interesting thing, but this person's spirit felt very feminine in essence. I just felt this goddess energy as I was tapping into them. And I felt like this person struggled a lot in their life because I saw kind of being born into this traditional military family, kind of hiding the truth of who they were and how they identified. And I felt this fabulousness with them, like just such a beautiful, vivacious, kind, sensitive essence within this person. And it felt like they could not really share that part of themselves. And it feels like they went down a path that wasn't authentic to themselves. I also saw a big connection to the love of Star Wars and Princess Leia, which was interesting. And then I feel like this person would not have lived to old age. I feel like they lived to middle age. And I feel like they, as they got a little older, moved and connected with people that they could be their full selves around. And there was just this sense of blossoming and uncovering that felt so beautiful. And this person to me also felt like there was a big tie to writing with them, like writing everything down, documenting and journaling. And that's really where their truth could come out. I also felt like they struggled with a heart problem, something with their heart. And so this beautiful spirit person's message today is life is too short to hide your magic. Life is too short not to be your authentic self, and go where you are loved because that is where you are meant to be. And there's just this sense of life being in black and white in this way that everyone else expected them to show up. And then all of a sudden, this like bright fuchsia light lights up everything. And there's just this sense of so much joy and community and being with people that fully understand and loved them. So there's just a really uncomplicated message here of like times can get so dark, life can be so dark, hate can be so much darker than love sometimes. And with all of that being said, don't allow yourself to get trapped in that darkness. Go where there are like minded people, go where you are loved. Live in color, live brightly. And there's just this sense of so much joy and so much gratitude from this spirit person that they did that because they wish that they would have done it sooner. They wish like life is meant to be enjoyed, is what they just said. And so if you're not enjoying your life, if you're around people who are judging you or feel like they only love you conditionally if you show up one way, that life is too short to dim our light to make other people happy, to light ourselves on fire, to keep other people warm. Where can we live out loud, be more authentic, and feel brave to do that in a way that empowers other people to feel brave to do the same? So I really loved this spirit person and this connection. They had such special energy and such joyful energy. And they just came in so quickly and they're like, here's everything that I want to say. And I think, because they felt like they had to censor themselves when they were here while they're in spirit, they were very quick to tell me everything, which I loved. So I hope that this message lands in your heart today. And I also think that there's an element of us really being there for people right now in this moment whose voices feel silenced, whose freedoms feel threatened. There's just so many big forces at play that want to divide and separate and hurt us and hurt people that we care about. And we all can be agents and allies for love and for each other. So I hope that you have a beautiful rest of your week, and we will see you next time. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Magic Hour podcast. We are so happy you're here. I absolutely love to connect with you all on Instagram at angels_and_amethyst. I love to get your thoughts on each episode, and I get so excited to get your emails to contact@magichourpod.com. Make sure you're subscribing to Magic Hour so you never miss a new episode in your inbox. We have so many amazing guests right around the corner as as always, please make sure to send your 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify to contact@magichourpod.com, and we'll enter you into an angel reading giveaway with me, which is just my favorite thing, to get to connect with the hummingbird community in that way. You get a bonus entry if you also send a screenshot of your YouTube subscription and also a screenshot of sharing us on your story and tagging us at Magic Hour Podcast on Instagram. The next giveaway will happen when we hit 288 5-star reviews on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We so appreciate you sharing the podcast with other magical people, and it really helps us keep this project alive. To learn more about me, my work, to book a reading with me, to take a workshop, please visit angelsandamethyst.com. And remember, you are magic.